I thought it would be interesting to invite a medium in during the Halloween season just to see what she'd have to say. Today, we're talking with Brooke Ashley, and she has four things that showed up in our interview that I think you'll find fascinating. The first is we talk about Halloween and what it means and how it crosses culture, that kind of thing. Second, we have a spot where we talk about the clairs that the clairs are those abilities that mediums have to detect information and how she raises her vibratory level in order to take advantage of the clairs that are presented to her. Third, Easter eggs. Now, you've heard about them in movies, but they show up in mediumship sessions too, I understand now. And it's a special little gift for the sitter to unwrap later in their life in the physical. I think you'll find her story really fun on that one. And lastly, is the cooperative relationship that Brooke has with her guide and how her guide pushes her to develop her skill set so that when the information comes through, she is better able to understand it and use it to the benefit of the sitter. So here is Brooke Ashley's bio. Brooke Ashley is an evidential medium and paranormal investigator with Earthly Imprint Paranormal. For the past 5 years, she has trained with some of the best in the field, developing a clear and compassionate approach to spirit communication. Brooke travels the country giving gallery readings that bring healing and closure while also leading paranormal investigations that explore the unseen. A frequent presenter at metaphysical and paranormal conventions, she regularly hosts events throughout the Pacific Northwest, blending evidential mediumship with hands on exploration of the paranormal. Here's our interview with Brooke Ashley. Hey, Brooke, really nice to have you here on the Afterlife Files and a spooky day to you.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So, we're going to talk a lot about Halloween today and kind of what the messages are surrounding that ancient pagan and now modern holiday. Um, but give us just a little bit of like how you got into this whole thing.
Yeah, so I guess I've always been intuitive from a child. I tend to find that trauma seems to trigger some more of that intuitive ability from a young age, which I did have some of, and put me in a position to be a little more open, I think, to what was going on around me energetically than maybe some people are at a young age. And as I moved forward, I noticed that I had this innate nature to pick up on things psychically, emotionally, all of that stuff. And then about 5 years ago, I was questioning mediumship. Like, how does that work? Can
Hmm,
anybody do it?
sure.
So I found a mentor, and she was great. And I just kind of jumped into these beginner mediumship courses almost to kind of talk myself out of the fact that I might be a medium.
It's a
And
well-worn
actually,
tradition. We're going to
yeah.
investigate this to prove it wrong. Yep.
Exactly. Coming from a standpoint of let's just put this to bed so that I don't have to wonder about it again. And it actually turned out to be the opposite. So I kind of fell into it that way. And it's been 5 years of development and mediumship for me. So.
So you're kind of a Halloween person. So what does that mean in the spirit world, this Halloween? Go for it.
I think it's pretty interesting because when we talk about Halloween, we're talking about like all of the spooks and the fun, and everybody gets into that part of it. Um, it's, of course, kind of pieced together from rituals, kind of paganistic, different types of rituals. And I do find that across the board, it's some things aren't just like pagan. They come from different cultures or things in different cultures that tend to mimic each other, I find. But I think it's that unknown that draws people into a space like Halloween. The what could happen, what is out there that we can't see. So it allows you to dive into that space of all of the supernatural, whether you're into aliens or whether you're into monsters or cryptids or ghosts, and it lets you kind of run wild without being judged, I think, is the fun of it.
And so Halloween is Samhain, right? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes, I am not a witch myself. I'm not into the practice of that space necessarily. So I know some about it, but I don't know a ton about it. But yes, that's pretty much where it would stem from. A lot of the belief systems inside of that would stem from there for sure. And I think the idea was to appease the spirits so that you could be safe and protected all year long. Yeah.
I love that. Well, one of the my most favorite things was watching Outlander, the TV series. Have you seen
Mhm.
that? And the
I've heard
opening,
of it. I have not actually watched it.
so like the very first episode takes place because of Samhain and the rituals around that. So it's one of my very favorite TV shows, and so this is why this is fun. And they talk about the thinning of the veil, and that this is a time to communicate with spirits. Um, have you found that to be true?
I find that it's more the openness of people that makes it. I truly believe as a medium, spirit is all around us all the time. We are absolutely not separated from the spirit world at all, but we are taught and told that that's the truth. So we put this kind of veil in between us and the spirit world in a way when we are already super connected. And Halloween allows people to, like I said, like dive into that space. So is the veil thinner? Or are we just more aware and allowed to be in that space where we're close to spirit, I guess is the question, right?
Mm-hmm. And so it may be a real thing or it may be cultural, but there's a increase of psychic activity around this late fall.
Yeah. An increase in psychic activity in the terms of like, I feel you see it more or it pops up more in terms of like consumerism in that way. And I think the reason being is because it's more acceptable around that time. So mediums who in their daily life can tend to get a lot of backlash and have to be careful about the spaces they put themselves in. It's not that way around the Halloween time, and it allows us to kind of be in that space without being judged. And people are looking for it around that time of year. They're looking to be in that space to, oh, let's go to a medium, let's go to a psychic, and it's a little more accepted. So I find that mediums kind of jump on that bandwagon because it allows us to do what we do without being judged as much.
Well, now that you say that, if you just wore black and you said you wanted to invoke the spirit of the great pumpkin, I'd believe you because it's that time of year.
That's true. It's a little more open belief system, I think, around that. A little more goes. And you find also people who tend to steer away from that world, the spiritual world, will involve themselves in it a little bit more around that. It's they let that kind of guard down, I think, because they know, oh, well, now is the time it's acceptable around this time of year.
Yep. So does thinning the veil mean something to a medium? Do you find it easier at sometimes a year versus others?
I I would be probably the medium to kind of come out of that space and be the one to say no. I think it's Because for me, I think people misunderstand mediumship and what it is. And really, what it is, it's a switching of your awareness. It's such a tiny little switch of awareness. So I feel like the veil is never thin. It's just not really there for a medium. Our awareness is able to switch in between those two places so quickly that yeah, I don't really subscribe to that. I know I'm like going against the grain of like maybe what mediums say, but I don't really subscribe to the idea that at a certain point in time the veil would be thinner, if that makes sense.
Yep. And so when you do that switch, does it, how does it feel? What's the difference between, what we're doing and when you're doing your thing?
It's about being in a space where your mind is not taking over. My mentor always said, you need to lose your mind, quote unquote, to do good mediumship. So it's about leaving behind the analytical mind and going into a space that is where you're allowing information to come to you. I think a lot of times we have, as humans, we all have this sense of control that we need to have. We're in our minds a lot. The mind is a good thing, right? Because the
Hmm.
mind keeps us busy. We need our mind, but our mind and our thoughts are not us. So it's about moving the mind aside. And like she says, like she finds it very funny when she says this, it's like it's you have to lose your mind. It's like moving your mind aside in order for the quiet to come in so
Hmm.
that the information that's being brought to you from the spirit world is more digestible. It's more noticeable because we're using our clair senses. Everybody talks about a sixth sense. Really, it's multiple senses. We just wrap it up in that sixth sense form. So it's your clairs, clairvoyance, which is clear seeing, clairaudience, which is clear hearing, claircognizance, which is clear knowing, and clairsentience, which is clear feeling. And we use all of those different clairs to become aware of information from the other side, from somebody's a loved one on the other side, in order to bring forward that information in a way that makes sense to the person in front of us who's receiving the message.
So the information could come through as hearing, as a kinesthetic
Mhm.
sense, as you know, uh, a knowing. It can come in lots of different ways, is what I heard you just tell me.
Yes, it does. And it's interesting because each piece that you receive could come in a different way. I might see um, an image of an object that they had when they were in the living. I might see a photograph that they're showing me that they want to acknowledge that a loved one has on a shelf. And then I might hear a name. So it's like in your mind, it's like almost your own voice saying it, but you can hear it in your mind. I might feel the way they passed away. So I can physically start to feel buzzing in my body or my chest is getting tight. Sometimes when I read, because my clairsentience is one of my stronger senses, if someone passed away from lung related issues, I kind of have to like collect myself because I start to choke. I'm having trouble and I need to cough. So each piece of information that's being given from the spirit world can come through a different clair. And I think that's like the beauty of it. So I think when people say, well, I'm a clairvoyant, really what they're trying to say is, I see images. That is how I get my information. It's all through images.
Mhm.
But when you're working as a medium, it's pretty common for you to strengthen each clair so that it is coming in a different way. Each piece that comes to you, it just makes it more well-rounded.
And so the folks on the other side are sending you information in a way that best suits that information. Certainly, if it's a
Yes.
photograph, you would see it. If they're telling you something about their physical body, it would show up in a kinesthetic way.
Yes, exactly. And if someone was to tell you their name, then you would hear that through their voice. So it does seem to kind of correlate quite a bit. Not that it can't interchange and not that you can't hear the word cancer instead of feel something in your body. It can go that way. But it is interesting to see how they do correlate to the way that you might receive it in the physical world. So I always find that really fascinating. Yeah.
Yep. Um, so are there things that you can do to make it easier for the folks on the other side to communicate with you?
Yeah, it's really about raising your vibration because if we talk about um, where we are as humans and where spirit would be vibrationally, I always try to explain it to people like if you have a solid object in front of you, like you pick up a ball that is it's solid, right?
Mhm.
And science has proven that the vibration of an inanimate object like that would probably be on the lower scale. And then if you're talking about something like water, that starts to become almost untangible. You can't grab it. It's almost like it's something it's disappearing. It's not in a solid form. I think science has proven that that's a higher vibration. It vibrates on a higher level. And so I tell people spirit is just like it goes higher and higher and higher until you can't see them anymore, right? So their vibration is so much higher than us here in the physical world. So we have to meet in the middle when we're communicating, which means we raise our vibration to connect to them and they try to lower theirs a bit to connect with us. We really have to meet in the middle. Ways that I tell people will say, how do I raise my vibration? Well, it's really anything that brings you love, joy, and happiness is going to raise your vibration. Listening to a song that makes you feel really happy, or a song that makes you think of a loved one, watching your favorite movie, being in a space that's very healing for you. Maybe you like to be in nature in the sound of nothing but the trees and the birds, and that makes you feel really, really happy. So it's really about happiness and love, is really what it is, because the more of that, the closer you get to the spirit world, because the more your vibration is raising.
So how do we know that it's really Uncle Fred on the other side that we want to talk, we want to talk to Uncle Fred and something comes through and, it could be anything. So how do you figure
Yeah.
that out?
So it's literally the word validation. So it is about bringing forward evidence and then connecting with the person in front of you who's receiving the reading. We call them a sitter. So
Mhm.
connecting with your sitter to say, would you understand that? And they can convey to you, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Say, I'm seeing a gold watch with, the battery is missing from it. And I am feeling that he's letting me know that this gold watch would have been given to his son after he passed away. And someone says to me, yes, that's correct. It's the validation that lets you know who you're with. So you're bringing forward verifiable information and then checking in with your person so that you know, yes, this is correct. We are on the right track. All of those things. So with good mediumship, you are really attempting to bring through those golden nuggets of information. But I say go a step further in mediumship, not just to throw something out and let your sitter fill in the gaps. It's about talking or bringing forward something that they would understand and going a little deeper or digging a little deeper so that you are bringing forward what is it? Why did they have it? Who did it go to? Or who was holding their hand when they passed away? What was said? Things of that nature that all can bring forward that information in a way that the person can understand and know that is definitely my mom with me. Nobody else would know that. Yeah.
So this just begs the quick question of give us an example of something where you just nailed it and it was like an aha moment with your sitter.
It's kind of interesting because I could go over a million things, but I think what I want to talk about is the stuff that happens after people leave the session
Ah.
because people tend to not understand why a medium would bring forward a piece of information that they cannot understand during the reading. So people need to know that mediums are never 100%. We're people too, right? But I think the most fascinating thing is when they come back to me afterwards and say, that thing I couldn't understand? Well, this just happened. Example, I had someone come and get a reading. I was bringing through verifiable information. They can completely understand everything I was saying. And it's not vague things, it's deeper things. But then the mom brings up peony flowers and hummingbirds. She's like, I'm not really sure. She didn't have peony flowers that I'm aware of. I'd have to double check. And I'm not sure about the hummingbirds either. And I told her, okay, I'm seeing peonies with hummingbirds. So just keep it in your back pocket and take that with you. maybe something will come up later. I like to call them Easter eggs. It's a way for your loved one to come back later and say, "Ha, it's me again. Remember when you were with the medium? Well, I'm coming back." She messaged me and told me that she was getting her first tattoo. And there was only one other person getting a tattoo in the shop that day. And the person was getting a tattoo of peony flowers with a hummingbird. So it's just a way for mom to say, "Hey, me again." Like you get to kind of be in that mediumistic space and get a message from me, even though you're not with the medium, because I gave you something for the future. And I find that fascinating.
Well, I love Easter eggs then.
Who
That,
doesn't, right?
yeah, well, that implies that we have a different sense of time because
Mhm.
clearly mom knew that she was, the child was going to go and get a tattoo and that,
Mhm.
Mary was going to be there getting a tattoo of a peony and a butterfly, and she put the two together. And
Yeah.
so so what do the folks have to say about how time works? Because clearly it's in a different sense than what we're used to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is, but we never really get the secrets of the universe,
Oh,
unfortunately.
don't tell me that.
But
I want to know.
right? Like, give me the secrets. Come on. And they're like, no, you can't, you don't get to know everything. But there's so many aspects to mediumship that prove that time is kind of an illusion, not linear sort of thing, you know?
Mm.
And I see it all the time with these things that are futuristic. In terms of bringing forward the information, but I'm also a paranormal investigator and I have a paranormal team with me and my fiance, and we travel the country paranormal investigating. And I also can go down that rabbit hole of time not being linear. It's everything all at once, in a vacuum, so to speak, due to some of the research that happens when we are investigating a location. Example, we were in a place called the Dumas Brothel in Butte, Montana, and we were doing an experiment with some friends of ours, Kim and Scott Horn, who sell paranormal equipment. They are also paranormal investigators, and they were in the basement. So I was upstairs alone doing an Estes method where I wear headphones and I'm wearing a ghost box, which scans radio frequencies. And the idea is that they are scanning so quickly that you could hear voices coming through them. And if they scan across multiple stations in a sentence, you should be able to hear that. And that would be an indicator of somebody communicating. Somebody's asking a question that I can't hear the answer to. And the point is to see if the answers correlate to the questions that are being asked. They were in the basement and they started to kind of go off topic and have a conversation amongst themselves where they were saying, "What if we're the spirits and they're in the living and we're haunting them?" And I'm upstairs, and at the same time, I hear the phrase through the ghost box, "You're the spirits." So I just walkie it over. I have no idea what they're talking about, but I walkie over, "You're the spirits," because that's what I heard. And those types of like investigations where you're playing with those ideas, it's kind of interesting what might come through. So I not only have I seen that in mediumship, but when we're investigating energy in a property, I've noticed some wild things about time as well, kind of being all in a vacuum and everything happening at one time. So
Ah, well, that sounds like fun. So you said that you're a paranormal investigator. We need to back up for just a second and tell me, what is a paranormal investigator and what kinds of things have you gotten involved in?
sure. So paranormal investigation truly is trying to align an explanation to things that we do not have answers for scientifically yet. So it kind of draws that line between science and paranormal, which is something that we can't sink our teeth into quite yet. So we like to go to different places and really get into that space and start to think outside the box about what is happening here. What could be the answers to some of the phenomena that people experience when they're in these locations? It seems to run through different wavelengths of what people would experience in certain places. So, depending on where you're going, is maybe dependent on what you're picking up. I tend to find that we are looking for a more solid answer to what might be going on in a space. And when we paranormal investigate, it's really important to not get carried away with lore and legend and really let the experience speak for itself when you're in a location trying to figure out what could be happening there, trying to debunk evidence. Okay, what could be causing this, right? Is there wind pushing the door? Is the door loose? When it's slamming, someone says the door is always shutting. What could be causing that? And as you eliminate all of these things that could be explainable, then we're left with, okay, what is it? And I think that's the beauty of paranormal investigation is leaving open that wonder or that side of it of maybe we don't know everything that's going on here. I mean, I'm a strong believer that we absolutely don't know everything that's going on here scientifically, and maybe we're not supposed to, but it's fun trying to find it out.
Well, I'm thinking, I'm going back a little bit because, we're in the season of Halloween and
hmm
people are purposely opening themselves up to, spooky events. So therefore, they might happen more frequently because we're allowing them to enter into our collective consciousness or somewhat something like that. Um, as kind of a person who is into Halloween, have you found that to be true?
Yeah, absolutely. I find it to be true, and it can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing. It just depends on your viewpoint. I think to things like people coming out on Halloween and doing things that are like kind of a little bit wild, like trying to conjure up a demon or
Ooh.
doing all sorts of crazy witchcraft and like it can get wild during Halloween. So you do have to be careful with where you let your mind and your energy enter because there are things out there we don't understand, and you don't want to leave your energetic space open to something that you don't understand. I truly believe that there are things out there that are not always the best of intentions or can have more of a negative connotation attached to it that could affect somebody if they're not careful. Yeah.
So, in your training, how do you protect yourself?
Definitely. It's a lot of chakra clearing. So the chakra systems from head to toe, being kind of aware of those energy points within yourself, clearing them out through meditation. Guided meditations are fantastic. I love them because a lot of people are sitting in a meditation going, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. What do I do? So guided meditations are easily accessible and they're very helpful. You also need to be aware of the fact that we all have an aura that surrounds us. It's our energetic field, our aura field. And how far out are you allowing that to be projected? I feel like when you project that energetic field that you naturally have further and further out, and you're not aware of it, you don't pull it back in, that can leave you open to a lot of things. So it can leave you open if you're empathetic. You have if you're the type of person that's an empath, which is you take on other people's emotions and things of that nature, that can get tricky as well. So when we talk about mediumship, it's very important to have the rituals that feel very aligned for you that can cleanse your energetic space because we are energy
Mm.
and we don't want to muck that up. So I'm a big advocate for finding something that feels aligned to you because if you don't believe it and it doesn't feel energetically aligned, I don't feel like it's going to work. Example, you wouldn't want to bring a priest in to cleanse a home that might have a native belief system behind it, and maybe there's something there going on. You wouldn't want to bring in a priest to cleanse it. That doesn't energetically match. The belief systems don't match. So it's about being aware of your energy and what aligns for you and what you believe in and is rings true for you, implementing that into your daily life. And it could be as simple as lighting an incense stick or It could be as simple as taking a salt bath. It could be as simple as taking a moment to breathe with your eyes closed and just draining everything out from the day. It can be so simple, but it has to be innately something you feel aligned with. So
Yep.
that's what I would tell people. Be aligned with what it is that you're doing to cleanse your energy.
Role of intentions in this process.
Yeah, intention setting is everything. It is the thing, I believe. Setting your intentions inside of mediumship, inside of psychic work, inside of anything that has to do with connecting to energetic spaces. Intention is it's like the top of the hill, it's the peak. So without intention setting, I find it to be kind of moot point. So when we are in mediumship, I always tell my students, it's as simple as setting your intention. Today, I would like to do this with you, spirit world. This is what I would like to practice when I'm connecting to somebody's loved one today. Can you help me out with that? This is what I would like today. Set the intention, and you would be surprised what's received. And I think it's the same with everything in your life, setting the intention. We can go back to paranormal investigating. And your intention when you walk into a space is to turn into Zach Baggins from Ghost Adventures. And it's different. It's a different energy. So if you walk into a space and you're paranormal investigating, and it's you already are connected to the negative aspects of the hauntings, you are pushing the negative narrative. You are only talking about the suffering, you're only talking about the negative things. You feel like there's something bad in the space. That's your intention when you walk into this space. So what you receive from the spirit world is going to be clouded by your idea of it or your intention when you walk in there. It will be clouded. And I tell people, if you walk into a paranormal location and you know that this person had a very negative experience and they thought they were getting possessed or they thought they were being overtaken and it was all negative, negative, negative. And then you have someone else who comes into the space and had a very non-threatening experience. Ask, you got to ask yourself, well, what was their intention when they walked in? Where was their energy lying when they walked into the space? Was the person who came in, were they are they a negative person? Do they like leaning towards the negative side of things? And the other person, are they someone who's a little more open-minded and want to come in with like an intention of figuring out what's going on and maybe helping? So it changes everything. Intention setting, I think across the board, whether you're in the spiritual world, whether you're in the physical world, say you're at a desk and your intention is, you're working and your intention is to meet the deadline, right? You're doing everything with intention, right? And that intention drives you. So, yeah.
So you had this the experience of you set an intention for a session. I want to have this thing work, and then the guidance comes through and says, "No, Brooke, we're not doing that. We're going to go do something else today because that's what you really need." If
Absolutely. That happens all the time. I think it is like the biggest reason that people quit mediumship before they should is, why is this not working the way I want it to? Why am I wanting to get a name, or why am I wanting to get this thing and I'm not getting it? And I always tell people that, look, you can connect to spirit and set your intention, but you cannot control the spirit world. So you're setting an intention and that's what you're looking to do, but you may be dealing with someone on the other side who has other plans. And maybe that person is like, okay, you're setting that intention, but that's not what I want to talk about today. So maybe you're setting the intention that you want to get what they did for a living. And the only thing they care about is telling their son that they left behind that they're so proud of the new job that they just got because they've been working for 5 years on it. And you're like, the spirit is like, I have limited time. I don't care about what I did for a living. Would you please tell my son, So, yeah, you can set the intention and hope for the best, but you also need to be completely open to whatever will come through and try not to have control of that space so tightly, because control is going to really, it's going to frustrate you when you're
Yep.
not getting what you're looking to get. You can always set the intention and hope for the best.
Well, it harkens back to what we were talking about before, which is if the spirit on the other side wants to communicate certain information to you, and it's going to, and the best way to do that is kinesthetic, and you're looking for a photograph,
Hmm.
it's it's a miss.
Yep, absolutely. Can be. And it causes mediums problems all the time. All the time. I even had to learn through my mediumship to let go of control a little bit. You know, you want to really control the outcome because when you start off in mediumship, you have what we call a reference bank. So there was a woman who has passed away now, but a beautiful woman, and everybody in the mediumship world probably knows who she is. Her name is Janet No Havoc, and she was brilliant, brilliant, brilliant medium, and she worked with the Journey Within in New Jersey, I believe it was. And she wrote a book, a brilliant book called Where Two Worlds Meet. And in that book, she talks about a name, rank, and serial number, meaning it's important for you to set the intention with spirit when you're starting that I need these things because I need to know what I am bringing forward, and you need to know what to give me. Because if we're both just sitting there going, okay, it can be really hard to pull things out of the air, right? So it's about, okay, I want to know if it's a man or a woman. I want to know how old you were when you passed away, maybe how you passed away. And then you can start to add things to what we call your reference bank. Okay, you can start to throw in and it's a literal journal. Like I tell my students, write it down, write down names, write down reasons for passing for men and women, write down, like, so you got to write down all these things and put it in your reference bank. And, you know, thank God I had incredible mentors who taught me that. And thank God I got my hands on that book because it helps a lot. So you have it, but at a certain point in your mediumship, it's time to move away from that reference bank and let spirit really just flow because it will start to cause, it's like you don't need it anymore. That was for you to start out. It can
Mm.
start to cause that friction. Because, right, say, show me a photograph, and they're trying to make you feel something. And you're so focused on the clairvoyant image, you're not paying attention to the rest of your body. So it's about learning how to know what your reference bank is and know what you kind of are hoping to expect in the reading, but to be literally like aware of everything. Okay, did I see something? Am I feeling something in my body? Am I hearing something? Okay. And paying attention in that space so that if it does shift, you can move with that shift.
I was thinking of remote viewers who talk about that reference bank, that if they get an image of say a triangle,
Hmm.
and their reference bank, that means a church.
Yeah.
But after a while, you don't need the triangle anymore. So it's a real um, evolving science. How about
It
that?
is. Yeah, absolutely. It's evolving. And I find it very cool that through all these different spaces, like even remote viewing, which is quite different from mediumship, and they use it for different reasons, right? And to have kind of similar practices to tap into that space, right? Because I think the space is the same. It's just you're doing something a little different inside of it. So I find it interesting that the reference bank kind of goes from one to the next to the next. But yeah, at a certain point, you don't need it anymore because you grow and you evolve and you move on from certain things. And now maybe you're just full on seeing a church. You don't even have to. For me, I used to have a really hard time connecting with Alzheimer's or dementia. I would
Oh,
just start to get
sure.
really, yeah, confusion. My mediumship would start to go down the toilet. I started getting confused. Things weren't making sense, and I couldn't understand what was happening. And so at the end of the reading, I would say to the person I was practicing on, tell me everything about your loved one. And they would say, oh, well, they have Alzheimer's, they had Alzheimer's, or they had dementia. And I would notice that theme. I'm like, oh. So I said to the spirit world, when you do that, I can't concentrate. So could you show me a coin, just like a gold coin, like a big gold coin in my clairvoyance? And that will mean Alzheimer's or dementia, because when you put that feeling on me, I get so disoriented, I can't work. So, yeah, it's about taking those. And now I just hear it. It changed on me. Now I don't need to see the coin. I just hear someone say dementia or Alzheimer's. And so, yeah, sometimes you need it and then you move away and things change. Yeah.
Well, the other thing that I've heard is that um, when you're practicing with guidance, and you're exchanging information back and forth, they can often say, well, Taylor, you get things visually. And we're going to go with synesthesia today. So we want you to exercise that part of you, or, you don't hear very well when we talk to you. So we're going to exercise that so that you can, pick that up a little easier.
Hmm.
Same for you?
Yeah, it can be. It's a wild ride, it's you think you have it down and it shifts. And I've heard this from every practicing medium. You think you have it, and then it shifts on you, and you're like, I lost it. I'm horrible at this. That I'm terrible, and you get so down on yourself and you want to give up and you're ready to quit. And then it like comes back full circle. And then you realize, oh, that was a lesson.
Mm.
I'm not going to have you do it this way anymore. You know how to do that. Let's do it this way now. And you lose your footing and you have to kind of learn something new all over again. But I tend to find that when that's happening, it's for your betterment because you're leaning too heavily on one of your senses and they're like, okay, you're good, but we're going to push you further. Once you start working that separate way and you get good at it, then they give you back the old way. So now you have two ways to connect. You have multiple ways to connect. So it's like, we're going to take it. So like, we're going to take it from you until it's almost like taking the toy from the kid until they finish their homework. Like I'm not going to give you back this toy until you're done with your project, and then I'll give it back. So I noticed that when you think you lose something, you haven't lost it. You're just being forced to use it in a different way. And when you master that, they'll give it back. They'll give it back the other way. Yeah.
I love it. So you mentioned that when you're doing this work that you raise your vibratory level,
Hmm.
and that helps with the communication. When I talk to healers, they talk about doing the same thing, that
Hmm.
they raise their vibratory levels to match the intuition that they need to have, or to tap into healing energies. And now I'm out of my expertise, but have is this a component of the work that you do?
Yeah. I find when we talk about there is this meditation that I listen to on YouTube by Tony Stockwell, who is absolutely brilliant. He's a brilliant, brilliant medium. And it's a sitting in the power meditation. So, sitting in the power is about sitting in a space where you are clearing everything out and you can stay in this space of love and connection with the other side for long periods of time. And it really just stretches the muscle in
Hmm.
order for you to clear that space out long enough to have a longer conversation with spirit. Because once your mind starts to enter, it's over. So, it's about stretching that muscle, it's about sitting in that love and in that power. And in that meditation, he says, for everybody in the it's like he says medium psychics and healers, medium psychics, healers. So it's the same like energetic space, you're just doing something different in it. So we all, I think, kind of need to raise that vibration in order to be in that space because it's all coming from this more universal healing space. And higher vibrational space. So, whether or not you're a psychic, a medium, a healer, Reiki practitioner, energetic healer, whatever it is that you're working in that space, it's going kind of same to that same vibrational level when you're working. So, I found it interesting when Tony Stockwell would do the sitting in the power meditation for him to say psychics, healers, mediums, because it kind of proves that we all need that when we're working in that space across the board of that kind of energetic, working with the energy, working with energetics, working with that whole space, raising the vibration. So it's across the board. We tend to do a lot of the same practices in order to raise the vibration. So listening to meditation music and sitting in the power and things of that nature, you may find a medium doing it, but you also may find a Reiki practitioner or energetic healer doing that as well. Maybe even someone who does past life regression, all of those sorts of things. Yeah.
So we are bumping up against our time zone here. I wonder if you have a message for the season that you would like to impart with us and give us that last little bit of wisdom.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most important thing is to remember that staying in the now is probably the most important thing I could tell anybody to do. Stay in the present moment, please, as much as you possibly can. Be in the present moment. Protect your energy, be aware of your own spaces, and stay in the present moment because when you're in the present moment, that's where you connect with yourself in a way that I think that you can't when your mind is busy playing tricks on you from the past or playing tricks on you from the for the future. So stay in the present moment and stay grounded. Be sure to be aware of your own energy. Be sure to be aware of what you're putting out versus what you're taking in. And around the Halloween season, please be aware of what you are digesting into your energetic space. We all love the spooky. We all want to be a part of the spooky. Everybody seems to really enjoy Halloween, and I'm all for it. But be aware of what you are soaking into your energetic space when we are in the Halloween season.
I love it. And I promise to protect my energy and, and leave the creepy, spooky stuff out there somewhere.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Thank you, Brooke. It has been a real pleasure to have you here on the Afterlife Files.
Thank you so much for having me. It was wonderful.
And for the rest of you that have stayed with us all the way to the end, I've got a couple interesting observations on what Brooke had to say. So stick around and we'll see you on the flip side. I think you could tell that Brooke and I really enjoyed our time together. And there were two areas that I thought were really interesting and kind of popped out on. So the first was, what if guides have another idea? Now, this shows up all the time when we do near-death meditation work, where we learn to talk to our guides, to our dead relatives, friends, pets. We divine beings, beings of energy. We have all kinds of ways that we can communicate with the non-physical world and those entities there. But every once in a while, it just goes blank. It just doesn't work. That's our guides pushing us to use other modes of perception that maybe we aren't as good at. Here in the physical world, we have five physical senses. We got, sight and hearing and nose and taste and kinesthetic. But in the non-physical world, there's an additional five. There's synesthesia, this idea that senses get mixed, emotion, intuition, synchronicity, and imagination. And it takes a little bit of time to be able to perceive those and then to be able to trust them. Like intuition, when you get an intuitive hit, where did that come from? Is it right? Should I trust it? It just takes a little bit of time and a trusting relationship with your guides. The second one that Brooke brought up is about entering the space. She talked about raising the frequency level and then entering the space, and that you can use this higher energy, higher frequency field to do all kinds of things. She mentioned mediumship and being psychic, and this idea that you can have be a healer. But there's so much more. I mean, you could do remote viewing, you can talk to animals, there's all kinds of things that you can do. So, the point of that is that the important thing is to be able to quiet your mind, be in the present moment, and raise your vibratory level to a degree that these things are now available to you. And having guided meditations to help you through that is really helpful. There's all kinds of methods to do that. Check out mine. There's a lot of them that are great. The point is that what we want to do is to be able to enter into these spaces, take advantage of where they are, and know that there are tools and techniques to be able to move around and take advantage of the information that can come to us from the non-physical universe. Thanks for watching here on the Afterlife Files, and we'll see you next time. Okay.